I once came across an idea from an architect that stayed with me. Before building on a piece of land, spend time there. Some even say you should sleep there. See where the morning sun reaches first. Notice where the wind always comes from. Listen to the birds. See how the place changes from morning until evening. It's surprisingly easy to fall into the habit of always visiting at the same time. You spend a few hours on the plot, then head home. Without realizing it, you only ever see one version of the place. We never slept here, but we spent many weekends here before building anything. The plot looked very different back then. Bushes had almost swallowed it. Fruit trees were growing everywhere. And hidden behind them was a small shed. We knew it was there. We didn't think much about it. There was plenty to do before we could even think about building. The first step was simply to clear the land. And little by little, it began to open up. Winter came, and before long, so did spring. That's when we took a closer look at the shed. It was made of asbestos. Before we could continue, it had to be removed. While we were waiting, the 1st of March was getting closer. In Germany, trees have to be cut before the nesting season begins. That meant we only had a few days left. We sorted everything and invited the neighbors to take anything they could use. Concrete blocks, natural stone, old fencing. But time was running out. There were only a few days left before nesting season began. We still had a lot to do. Most of the trees on the plot were plum trees. Big ones, small ones. Some stood exactly where the house would be built. Those had to come down. We cut almost everything by hand, not because we particularly wanted to. In Germany, there are strict rules about when noisy machinery can be used. We didn't have time to wait, so the handsaw and the axe became our best friends. The walnut tree was different. It wasn't standing where the house would be. It stood exactly where one of the future terraces had to be. For days we kept convincing ourselves there had to be another solution. There wasn't. I remember learning the Romanian legend of Master Manole back in school. As children, we thought it was a horrible story. Every night, the monastery he was building collapsed. The only way to finish it was to sacrifice his pregnant wife. Anna by burying her alive inside the walls. It sounds cruel, and it is. It took me years to understand why that story had survived for centuries. Not because of the sacrifice itself, but because creating something new sometimes means letting go of something you wish you could have kept. For us, that meant saying goodbye to a few trees we had hoped to keep. Standing there, watching Theo with a saw in his hands, we couldn't help thinking about that story. We kept the walnut trunk. The plan was to turn it into something one day. I'm honestly not even sure where it is anymore. Actually, we still have a big pile of wood hidden in the garden. It's the pile. We should really do something with this. Not every tree had to come down. The apple tree stayed. Several plum trees stayed as well. Over the following years, we planted even more fruit trees, at the right spot. Today, there are around 40 of them. The old oak stayed too. It still makes us a little nervous whenever the wind gets strong, but we'd much rather keep it. We also left the wild corner on the plot wild. It's full of shrubs and small trees. The birds seem to like it. So do we. The smaller branches didn't wait that long. Instead of burning them, we cut them into smaller pieces and built our first compost pile. It simply didn't feel right to throw them away. As it turned out, the first version didn't quite meet Theo's standards. By the next day, he'd already built it. A few months later, they were already feeding the first vegetables growing on the plot. We didn't know it then, but that little compost pile would quietly become part of almost everything we grew. The same spring, we wanted to start our vegetable garden. But first, there was one last reminder of the trees. When the last stump finally came out, we finally had a place for our vegetable garden. Neither of us was completely new to it. Growing up in Romania, both our families had gardens. Back then, we simply thought that was normal. We didn't build raised beds. Not because we didn't like them. We actually think they're beautiful. We simply wanted to grow food without making it unnecessarily expensive. So we simply grew everything directly in the ground. Bought a few seedlings, sowed a few seeds, and hoped for the best. The first year we bought most of our seeds and seedlings. But little by little, we began saving our own. Today, many of our seedlings start from seeds we've collected ourselves. Every season leaves something behind for the next one. Some varieties adapted, some didn't. We're still learning what grows well in this part of Germany. The garden changes a little every year. It's nowhere near enough to feed us all year, but every summer, the tomatoes remind us why we started. I'm still convinced nothing tastes quite like one you've picked only moments earlier. Little by little, the plot was becoming more than a place where we hoped to build a house. It was already becoming home. Before building a house in Germany, one of the first surveys is for unexploded bombs. That probably sounds a little strange if you're not from Germany. It certainly did to us. Until a few years earlier, when we were evacuated from our apartment while specialists removed the bomb that had been found nearby. Only then did we realize it wasn't nearly as unusual as we'd thought. Fortunately, they didn't find anything. There was one more investigation. This one answered a different question. It told us what kind of ground we were building on, whether it could support the house, whether there was radon. Luckily, there was no radon. While reading more about the area, we came across something unexpected: traces of gold. Ever since then, Theo has been keeping an eye out. Every now and then, another interesting looking piece of quartz finds its way into his collection. I suppose it's time to reveal one of Theo's secrets. He still hasn't given up hope. He's convinced one of those stones will make us rich one day. With the land finally cleared and knowing what lay beneath it, we were ready to begin. Thank you for spending this time with us. See you in the next episode.